Learning a language is hard, but with these 8 habits, it gets a little bit easier. The most useful habit is habit number 1, time management. I use Google Calendar to stay organized. I know it's like what everybody uses, but it works. I schedule out all my classes, and then I schedule out the homework that I have for those classes, along with the estimated time that it would take me to complete it. Finally, I follow it up with planned activities such as intramurals or parties. If you aren't a student, this would consist of work and then any obligations outside of work or during the weekend. From there, I schedule out an hour to learn a language each week, whether that be a scheduled event or just learning on my own. Either way, it's completely fine. I stick to about an hour just because any more than that, it becomes very difficult to stay consistent, and then you give up because you get frustrated. And over the course of years, you'll learn quite a bit. This habit for me keeps me organized and accountable. And if you have trouble staying accountable, then schedule out the hour a week with a friend and don't let them down. And this transitions perfectly into habit number 1.5, meeting with somebody weekly. I have about 1.5 years of experience using this habit, and it helps immensely, especially with somebody who's already native. They are a great resource to fix any mistakes that you may make and offer further help if you don't understand something. A great strategy to make this happen is to find somebody who wants to learn your native language, befriend them, and then schedule an hour meeting with them each week, and then speak for 30 minutes in your native language and then 30 minutes in their native language. I did this for Portuguese, and this is the main reason why I got so good at conversing with people so quickly. Habit number 2, getting good sleep. Sleeping helps with memory, and if you sleep well, you'll be able to retain information in your target language. We're gonna do some speed facts for you on how to sleep well. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night, as dark of a room as you can get, as quiet of a room as you can get, excluding white noise, and try your best to stay off of electronics for about 30 minutes before bed. Do not disturb is a godsend here, and during that 30 minutes, reading a book in your target language is a fantastic way to unwind, at least if you are advanced enough to not need Google Translate for every sentence. For more information about this habit and many of my other habits, I recommend just looking on YouTube. There are entire channels dedicated to tackling topics like these, so if you want more resources, I would go there. Anyways, on to the next habit. Habit number 3, talking to yourself. I know I've mentioned this strategy in the past, but I talk about it a lot because it works. I normally talk to myself when I'm bored, which is most of the time, or when I'm commuting to a place that's less than 5 minutes away. Normally when I do this, I just state random sentences about the language that I'm learning in my target language. So for example, I do this, I'm learning Swahili, so I'd say things like, Ninapenda kujifunza Kiswahili sana. You know, things like that. Or what you could do is describe the world around you, although this is typically more difficult because you need a much larger vocabulary. But anyways, as you continue to speak to yourself more and more, your brain starts to lump together words that frequently occur next to each other, so it gets easier to speak when the time arises. And it doesn't even have to be correct because you're working on your pronunciation at the same time. Although it's better if it is correct, but it's not necessarily a requirement, especially considering that you can get people to help you with any mistakes that you make when you speak to them in person. In real time, I don't know. But when you actually need to speak with them, and you can ask for corrections and then they'll help you. A great way to practice this every single day is to tie it into a habit that you already have. For example, right before you go to bed or right when you wake up, you can talk about what you enjoyed most about the day or what you look forward to that day, respectively, and that's a great way to practice and be thankful at the same time. Habit number 4, eating healthily. Eating healthily improves memorization. I have a couple of tips, so we'll do another speed run on how to eat healthy briefly. First, only shop when you're full. Not only will you buy 60% less stuff, but you will be more inclined to spend money on healthy things that you need rather than unhealthy snacks. Speaking of unhealthy snacks, try your best to avoid them. It is really hard to avoid them altogether, so the 80-20 rule is generally a good route to go, where 80% of your diet is food you would consider healthy, and 20% of this diet is food that you wouldn't consider healthy. If you find this difficult, you can always do a 50-50 split and gradually work your way up to 80-20 over the course of a year, 2 years, 6 months, whatever. Yuka is a great app that helps you understand what you are eating. Generally, if the food item comes from nature, it's probably good for you. That means I approve of vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, a little meat, some dairy, rather than Oreos, ramen, most cereal, chicken nuggets, frozen pizzas, etc. But like I implied earlier, everything in moderation. Meal prepping saves an enormous amount of time and money, and listening to music or podcasts in your target language while you cook is an option. The basics of meal prepping is meat and veggies with carbs. You can mix and match what you cook on a weekly basis so you don't get tired of the food you are preparing. Again, this is a brief overview of what I do. There are entire channels dedicated on how to most effectively do this. Habit number 5, exercising. Exercising has been shown to improve memory. You've heard this song and dance, so here we go again. The CDC recommends 150 minutes of moderate activity per week or 30 minutes per day for 5 days. Walking, swimming, lifting, running, rowing, or playing sports are all great ways to get your heart rate up. Your increased heart rate and increased respiration rate brings more oxygen to your brain than it normally does, improving brain function as a whole. It is also shown that doing exercises increases your synaptic plasticity, aka it helps your brain make connections. It also allows for an increased rate of neurogenesis, or the production of neurons, which are vital in memory formation. If you live in a dangerous area or need to stay inside, there are plenty of fantastic calisthenic workouts that you can do inside the safety of your own home. Additionally, you can listen to music or an audiobook or a podcast while you do these things, except swimming unless you have waterproof earbuds. And if you lift heavy weights, you can read in between sets. Research shows that it can take up to 6 months to actually start reaping the rewards of your work, so don't forget to be patient. Patience is the name of the game when doing anything worthwhile. Habit number 6, Duolingo. Doing Duolingo helped me get exposed to my target language each and every day, and it helped keep my motivation high when learning my languages. Follow the main storyline, don't do more than 2 lessons per day. If you do any more than that, you're wasting your time. Make sure to keep your streak up. I feel like a parent telling their child to eat their vegetables. Keep your streak up. It's very important. If you want to learn more about how to use Duolingo effectively, I have an entire video dedicated to it. You can click it in one of the top right or left corner. Habit number 7, YouTube. A lot of people waste a lot of time on YouTube, myself included, until I learned this strategy. I started watching content on YouTube in my target language, so I was able to leverage my YouTube addiction to learn a new language. In particular, I liked watching chess, so I just found somebody who speaks Portuguese and analyzes chess games, and I just watched him. Does that make me a nerd? Yes. Is that okay? In my mind, yes. You can hate on me if you want, but I think chess is fun. And speaking of doing something that you think is fun, when you watch YouTube in your target language, make sure it's about a topic that you actually enjoy, because the chances of you watching that content increase dramatically. And obviously, the more you watch it, the more you're exposed to your target language, the more you learn the language, etc. If it is too difficult to understand, you can switch the subtitles to English if they are available. Unfortunately, for Swahili, the subtitles are not available, so I've been kind of struggling with this habit for Swahili. For Portuguese, it works great though. Also, a bonus tip for the super learners out there. If you are watching a video and come across a word that you don't know, write it down. Not on a computer, or don't type it. Write it down on a piece of paper with the translation. Research has shown that writing things on paper helps you memorize things. I don't know why, but it just does. Habit number 8, passive listening. I listen to music or a podcast in my target language whenever I am working on an activity that doesn't require a lot of concentration. Particularly when I am cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, working out, or most recently, weighing plants for a group project. And even if you aren't listening closely, you'll still start to understand the rhythm of the language more, which is important in identifying and separating words. Further, if you listen just a little bit and identify words that you already know, this will help with active recall, making it easier to speak and listen in the future. And this doesn't have to be super intense at all. You can listen to like 15 minutes of a podcast or music, and you can pick out 1 or 2 words, and that will still be more beneficial than doing nothing. If you can recall any words that you couldn't recall at the beginning of listening to whatever you're listening to, then I consider that a win. You learned something, you got better. And those are my habits. To refresh, manage your time effectively, sleep well, eat healthily, exercise frequently, talk to yourself, use Duolingo sparingly, watch YouTube in your target language, and listen to podcasts while doing menial tasks. And feel free to share any habits that you found useful in your language learning journey too. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Ciao.